The cursed gold of the Emerald Glen. In the remote and mist-shrouded valleys of County Kerry, Ireland, a haunting tale of darkness and malevolence lingered among the locals. Legends whispered of the dark underbelly of the land, where the mischievous laughter of leprechauns could turn into blood-curdling screams. It was in this shadowed realm that the story of an ancient curse began, casting its pall over the village of Dún Laoghaire. The village of Dún Laoghaire was nestled between the rolling hills and lush meadows, where the sweet scent of heather danced on the gentle breeze. However, beneath the natural beauty, an ancient force stirred, restless and malignant. It was said that the village had long been a favored haunt of the wee folk, who reveled in the mirth of the locals, their eyes glinting with a sinister light. The story begins with Seamus O'Brien, a young farmer whose life was forever altered when he stumbled upon a hidden cave deep within the heart of the Emerald Glen. Guided by whispers that only he could hear, he followed an ethereal glow into the cavern's depths where an otherworldly treasure lay concealed. A hoard of gold, shimmering in the dim light, beckoned to him with a seductive allure. Seamus, overcome with a greed that seemed to consume his very soul, seized the gold, unaware of the ancient pact that bound the treasure to the wrathful guardians of the Glen. As he emerged from the cavern, the air thickened with a foreboding chill, and the laughter of the leprechauns morphed into a haunting, discordant melody that echoed through the valley. From that fateful day, darkness crept into Seamus's life, casting an insidious shadow over his every waking moment. His once thriving farm withered, the crops withering to a sickly hue, and his livestock falling prey to unexplainable ailments. His mind became ensnared by visions of malevolent figures, shadowy shapes that lurked in the corners of his sight, whispering promises of unearthly riches that led him further into despair. The villagers, aware of the curse that had befallen their kin, sought the guidance of the village elder, an enigmatic figure known as Malevolent, who possessed an ancient knowledge of the supernatural. Malevolent, her eyes aged yet sharp, spoke of the vengeful spirits of the Glen, angered by the theft of their sacred hoard. She warned that the only path to salvation lay in appeasing the wrathful beings and returning the cursed gold to its rightful place within the heart of the cave. Driven by a flicker of hope and desperate determination, a band of the village's bravest souls ventured into the heart of the Glen, their resolve unyielding despite the encroaching darkness. As they neared the cave's mouth, the very fabric of reality seemed to warp around them, the air thick with a palpable malevolence that threatened to snuff out their spirits. The final confrontation with the vengeful spirits was a harrowing battle that transcended the physical realm. Ethereal figures, twisted and contorted, assailed the intruders with an unrelenting fury, their wails piercing the very fabric of existence. Yet through unwavering courage and selfless sacrifice, the villagers managed to lay the cursed gold to rest, sealing the entrance to the cave and freeing their beloved land from the clutches of malevolent enchantment. But as the last echoes of the battle faded, a somber realization settled over the villagers. The line between the mortal world and the ethereal realm was a fragile one, easily disrupted by the insatiable desires of those who dared to defy the ancient pact. And so, the legend of the cursed gold of the Emerald Glen remained etched in the annals of Dún Laoghaire, a cautionary tale of the dangers that awaited those who dared to challenge the ancient guardians of the wee folk. Despite the apparent victory, a sinister energy lingered, refusing to dissipate with the banishment of the cursed gold. In the days following the confrontation, the villagers found themselves plagued by eerie occurrences, each more unsettling than the last. Strange whispers rode the wind, speaking of an unquenchable hunger that would soon be sated. Shadows danced in the corners of their vision, shape-shifting into twisted forms that mocked their every attempt to grasp the truth. Seamus, having been the catalyst for the chaos, bore the brunt of the malevolent force's wrath. His nights became tortured by vivid nightmares, each more horrifying than the last, depicting a realm of unending darkness and torment. His once hale physique withered, his flesh turning pallid and his eyes sunken, as if the very essence of life was being drained from his soul. In a desperate bid to break free from the clutches of the curse, Seamus sought solitude in the abandoned ruins on the outskirts of the village. But even in isolation, the tendrils of malevolence crept ever closer, whispering promises of respite that masked the impending doom lurking just beyond the veil. As the days passed, the village was enveloped in an all-encompassing sense of dread, the air thick with an oppressive aura that threatened to suffocate all hope. The once lively streets grew silent, the laughter of children fading into a distant memory. The crops withered to dust, and the animals of the Glen fled, sensing an imminent terror that could not be escaped. Malevolent, burdened by the weight of her knowledge, sensed an encroaching darkness that threatened to consume the very essence of the village. In a last-ditch effort to stave off the impending catastrophe, she delved into ancient tomes, unraveling secrets long forgotten by the mortal realm. Her weary eyes widened in horror as she uncovered the true nature of the curse that plagued Dún Laoghaire. The curse, she learned, was not merely the work of vengeful spirits seeking retribution for their stolen gold. It was a malevolent entity that had lain dormant for centuries, manipulating the hearts of mortals with promises of wealth and power, only to consume their very souls in a maelstrom of despair and agony. The curse of the Emerald Glen was a conduit for the ancient darkness, a gateway through which it sought to unleash its unholy wrath upon the mortal world. As Malevolent pieced together the fragments of the dark truth, the veil between the mortal realm and the ethereal plane began to fray, heralding the arrival of an otherworldly terror that would eclipse all previous horrors. The boundary between dreams and reality blurred as the once whispered promises of the malevolent force transformed into a cacophony of maddening shrieks that tore through the fabric of sanity. Seamus, now little more than a hollow shell of his former self, became the vessel through which the darkness manifested, his physical form contorting with each passing moment. The villagers, paralyzed with fear, watched as the ancient curse consumed their friend, distorting his flesh and twisting his features into a grotesque mockery of humanity. In the final, harrowing moments, Malevolent stood resolute, her eyes burning with a fierce determination to protect her village from the encroaching horror. With a whispered incantation, she called upon the ancient powers of the land, channeling the very essence of the Glen into a last, desperate plea for salvation. The earth trembled, the skies rent asunder by an ethereal force that clashed with the darkness, unleashing a cataclysmic battle that threatened to tear the very fabric of existence. The village of Dún Laoghaire quaked under the dueling powers as the lines between reality and nightmare blurred and the fate of the mortal realm hung in the balance. In the aftermath of the cataclysmic struggle, the village of Dún Laoghaire lay in ruins, its once thriving community reduced to a ghostly echo of its former self. The cursed Glen, now shrouded in an eternal darkness, stood as a grim reminder of the folly of mortal desires and the ancient powers that lurked beyond the realm of understanding. And as the winds carried the last vestiges of the villagers' lamentations, the legend of the cursed gold of the Emerald Glen faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones by those who dared to tread the paths of the forgotten, where the leprechauns and the wee folk of Ireland held sway over the fates of mortals who dared to defy their ancient pact. In the years that followed, the remnants of the village of Dún Laoghaire became little more than a faded memory, a cautionary tale passed down through generations as a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked within the shadows of the Emerald Glen. The land itself bore the scars of the cataclysmic battle, the once verdant fields now barren and desolate, haunted by the echoes of a past long forgotten. Malevolent, the last guardian of the village, retreated into the seclusion of the hills, burdened by the weight of her failure and the knowledge of the ancient darkness that still lingered within the cursed glen. Her days were spent in solitary vigilance, her every waking moment dedicated to preserving the delicate balance between the mortal world and the ethereal realm, lest the horrors of the past be unleashed once more. As for Seamus, his fate remained shrouded in mystery, his name whispered in fearful tones by those who dared to tread the fringes of the cursed glen. Some claimed to have seen a spectral figure, twisted and tormented, wandering the hills in search of the peace that had long eluded him. Others believed his spirit had been consumed by the ancient darkness, condemned to an eternity of suffering and despair, a cautionary tale for those who dared to defy the ancient pact of the wee folk. The cursed gold of the Emerald Glen remained hidden, its glimmering allure forever sealed within the heart of the forbidden cave, a solemn reminder of the perils of greed and the insidious nature of ancient enchantments. And as the winds whispered through the desolate ruins of Dún Laoghaire, carrying with them the mournful echoes of a once vibrant community, the legend of the cursed glen faded into obscurity, a grim testament to the enduring power of the leprechauns and the wee folk of Ireland, who watched over their realm with an unyielding vigilance, forever wary of those who dared to disturb their ancient slumber.